Tyla's album flopped because the world depends on Black Americans for consumerism. We are the influence. We South Africans are coming on here and saying basically like, oh, y'all are fighting with her because she said she's colored and all this other stuff. It's not only that. We have seen this girl on the stage at the award shows. Oh, it's so heavy. Like, it's just her vibe in general. Like, it just don't give. So no, we don't have to succumb and take part in her music. Y'all go ahead and make sure her stuff don't flop next time.
Yo my people, it's your boy Iyano Media. So guys, I just want to appreciate you guys for just tuning in my channel. In case you are new here, consider subscribing, liking and commenting. So guys, there is story was trending online, and I have complied it that we may talk about it. So this story about a musician from South Africa called Tyla. He was there in USA, and he was with his EP, and we've seen that Black Americans have said that the EP flopped, and they have given the reason why the EP of Tyla flopped, and they are saying that because he didn't respect the Black American people. So guys, there is this reaction from both sides, from Black Americans and South Africans reacting on why the reaction between Tyla and why the EP flopped. And South Africans say that the Black Americans were urging Tyla to be American. So guys, here's a collection of the reaction between the two parties reacting on Tyla's EP flopping there in USA.
Tyla's album flopped because the world depends on Black Americans for consumerism. We are the influence. We South Africans are coming on here and saying basically like, oh, y'all are fighting with her because she said she's colored and all this other stuff. It's not only that. We have seen this girl on the stage at the award shows. Oh, it's so heavy. Like, it's just her vibe in general. Like, it just don't give. So no, we don't have to succumb and take part in her music. Y'all go ahead and make sure her stuff don't flop next time.
We all know why Tyla's EP flopped. She came to America trying to brand herself as the next Beyonce, the next Rihanna, while in the same breath saying that she does not identify as a Black woman. And South African people ate us up, saying that we do not understand South African history where apartheid just ended in the 1990s. I feel like there's just a lack of respect, and a lot of these brands think that Black Americans are so stupid that someone can sit in our face and tell us like they don't identify with us, but yet we're supposed to give our money to them and support them. I feel like she's gonna try to have a rebrand soon, and her team's gonna like scramble to try to either rebrand her as like a pop star maybe and less of R&B, or try to come back and act like she's so racially like competent now and like she's ready to be embraced by Black culture. Either way it goes, like when she first came out she gave me a bad taste, so I don't think that I could support her.
I have a message for Black Americans, even though I'm not Black American, but this whole diaspora award thing, I just had to say this. So hear me out. Y'all need to protect your peace, your attention, and your money. Because it seems like people in the diaspora look for you guys' anger and attention for clout. They really look at you guys for clout. I don't think you guys realize, you guys do realize this because I hear you talk about it, but I'm saying I'm not Black American. I'm saying from an outside point of view, you guys do make things viral. You guys do make things move. And I will say this with my whole entire chest. Whatever Black Americans want to be popular will become popular. Either now or eventually it will happen. So a lot of people within the diaspora look at you guys' anger and attention as a way for clout. And you guys give it to them. And that's why I say, please protect your energy. That's literally what's happening with this Tyla situation. You guys said, fine, she doesn't want to carry awards. We'll make sure she won't have any. And now they're mad at you because of that. But I thought Black Americans didn't do anything. I thought Black Americans were lazy. I thought Black Americans weren't popular. I thought Black Americans didn't do anything. I thought y'all didn't make anything move. That's what they said about y'all. But the truth is, again, people in the diaspora know the intensity of you guys' influence. And it's crazy, especially being an African, when I hear other Africans call Black Americans ignorant. But when a white person says the same exact thing towards them, it's okay. I'm going to be honest, a lot of Africans don't know how to step to white people the same way they can step to Black Americans. Let's be honest. And I will say Africans are coons. I will say, I don't care what no one says. Not all of us, of course, But a lot of Africans are coons. And it comes back to our parents and our parents' anti-blackness. And a lot of us had to unlearn the anti-blackness that we learned in our homes. So again, the energy that they have for you, they will not have for the actual oppressor, which is a white person. Same thing for South Africans. The energy they have for Black Americans, they don't have for the Africans in their own home, in their own land, which is insane to me. So again, Black Americans, protect your energy, protect your attention, protect your money, because ours is projected to the wrong things. That's why we're not even helping our own homeland grow, our own homeland prosper.
So these are my thoughts on the whole Tyla situation. You know, fame cannot be manufactured. It cannot be bought. It has to be organic. It has to grow organically from the people. If the people are not behind you, you will not reach fame or stardom. You can't buy it. You can't manufacture it. It doesn't matter. And it really reminds me of Kim Kardashian and North, when she paid for her to audition, then paid for her to and I believe that that's the facts there, but pay for her to have the role that she did not earn. And even if she was to get on stage and whatever, it would not be received well because she did not earn it. It did not come organically. And what to me is the best display of this is Blue Ivy, and the way that Beyonce is cultivating her foundation. She is becoming a star on her own. It is so many celebrities who have children who want to be stars and never make it to stardom. And you would think if your mother is Kim Kardashian, it should not be hard for you to be a star. But you have to earn it. That is something that cannot be passed down. It is something that has to happen organically. And I believe, you know, doing some videos when she was little to growing to doing voiceovers in movies and what have you, and now she's on this huge stage with her mom, and it was little steps, and she's moving up and up and up, but also gaining her own fan base and gaining her own notoriety and making her own way. Has her mother helped? Absolutely. But is she doing it, Blue Ivy? Is she earning it? Absolutely. And Tyla did not earn it. And that, when she was on the Breakfast Club, that was a pivotal moment for her. It was such a turning point because she did not want to discuss race, which you went on a talk show and you didn't want to talk, which is wild, right? That's just wild. But when the question was asked, she was ill prepared, and I don't know, and they had to know because it was already rumors about colored, and you know, it was already out there. So this was her place to talk, have the discussion, explain herself. She's in someone else's culture. She's trying to get into a genre that does not belong to her organically. Do we welcome all kinds of people in? Absolutely. It's been lots of people who were able to do this because they were able to have the discussion and respect the culture that they were trying to be a part of. But I feel like it was such a poor choice either on her or her team, because I don't know who said don't talk about it. But if it was her who said don't talk, I don't want to talk about this, her team should have said you have to. She should have been coached to say, you have to. It's pivotal. You have to. And they should have coached her on how to do that. But if her team was saying, don't talk about it, this is terrible, it would be really bad for you, she should have had the sense to say, I have to. I'm in their culture. I'm in their space. And I'm here to have the discussion. And I've never heard her have a conversation with anybody other than, I think she's a beautiful young lady. I do enjoy her dancing. I don't think her voice is memorable. Like, it's not anything you know, spectacular. Do I believe there was a place for her in the market? I do, but I think she messed that up, and that's something she got to face and deal with. But you know, those are just my 2 cents on it. You cannot manufacture fame. You can't. It has to be given, earned, organically.
Trevor Noah said that there was no cooler black than American black. That's what he said out his own mouth. You don't remember that? Hold on, let me show you.
I was that black. Not just any black, but the coolest black in the world, and that's American black. I mean it. I've seen every kind of black, from light black all the way to like navy blue black. I know black. And there's no cooler black than American black. Nothing cooler, you know? Because American black people, I mean, you just look at how much they've done to influence modern day pop culture, you know? Small things and the big alike. You look at the music. You've got, you know, jazz, hip hop, R&B, all black Americans, style of clothing, you know, just this general swag that they've brought to everything.
All right, so I know I'm gonna get some heat for this, and I know a lot of y'all ain't gonna agree with me, but let's have the Tyla conversation. All right, so I know that she recently dropped an album, and I'm hearing all over TikTok, oh, she didn't do well, she attacked the black people, and she, you know, didn't want to be considered an American, like, or black. She wanted to be considered African, and, you know, she was a proud African, and she just didn't want to be put into the same category as, like, black Americans. And everybody's saying that really hurt her, you know, that's really affecting, like, how well she does, that she doesn't have the, you know, her team is not around her and telling her the right things to do and the right choices to make as far as that goes, because now her music and everything is affected. Now, although I do agree with how some of us feel, I do. I get it. I know. I feel it all the time. We're not going to sit here and act like she cannot be a proud African and she can't say, well, I'm African, because what is wrong with that? Like, really, when you think of it, what is wrong with that? If she's a proud African and that's what she wants people to know her as, what is really wrong with that? And let's just talk about the fact that America has made it that way. You know, when you think about us Americans, you know, African Americans, black people here in America, everything is, you know, how do you call it? Like stigmatized, you know, everything is looked at really bad. You know what I mean? So maybe she just didn't want to be put into the same circle with all that, you know, with all that garbage, with all that race, because we all know here in America, that's what it's all about. You know what I'm saying? If you're looked at like you're a black person, you're looked down on. Everybody knows that. So maybe she doesn't want to be put into that category where people have to sit and look down on her. Now, at the end of the day, I feel like black is black, and I feel like part of our problem is we refuse to just support one another regardless. You know, so many, hold on. Let me repeat that. The bulk of our issue is we refuse to support one another regardless. We refuse to support one another. Y'all don't hear me though. And like I said, I get it. I know, like anything that has to do with race and has to do with anybody, like, you know, trying to disassociate themselves with us makes us feel horrible, because we feel it 24/7 here in America. That's what we go through every day, you know. I have an earlier post where I'm talking about like jobs and how the corporate world will look at our names and will not like give us interviews. So I get it. But at the end of the day, we have to know that we still have to support one another. We're never going to get nowhere if we're just still, you know, on the team of attacking one another. And hold on, one more thing. I saw a young lady, and y'all could go look her up. Her post is going a little bit viral. But she was talking about how talentless Tyla is. And I'm going to 100% disagree with that. She's very talented. She's beautiful. She can dance. She had a really good hit song, or a few of them. She just made probably a huge mistake when it came to disassociating herself with the African Americans here in America, especially when she's, touring here in America and you're on an American platform and you're discussing your stuff in America, and you choose in that moment to disassociate yourself with the Black American people. Probably wasn't the smartest choice she made, but she's a beautiful girl. She's very talented, and I am rooting for her to come out of this very strong and, get back where she needs to be. So y'all have a good old productive day, and remember, we need to start supporting one another. She's a beautiful Black girl, and she made a mistake, and let's support her.
When it comes to this Tyla is flopping situation, I hear a lot of people saying that, oh, she was supposed to be the next Rihanna. But you know what Rihanna did that Tyla did not do? Rihanna let everybody know, even though we can all look at Rihanna and tell that she's an island girl from Barbados. We see what her mom looks like. We see what her dad looks like. And 9 times out of 10, Rihanna is either biracial or just a mixed Black person. A mixed person of African descent. But when Rihanna got here to America, she let everybody know that I'm an island girl from Barbados and I am Black. That no matter what type of racial system they have in Barbados, she knew that coming to America, that she had to let people know that I am of African descent, just like everybody else in the Black community, just like I'm making this island music, just like I'm making this pop music, just like I'm making this R&B music, that hello Black American community, hello African Americans, I am Black just like you. And that's something that Tyla wanted to run away from. And we can really dive deeper into the fact that in comparison to Americans, Tyla and damn near everybody else from South Africa is genuinely racist. Like, their racial class system, their racial relations, especially when it comes to the indigenous Africans of that nation, like, you can see documentaries where they tell you that South Africa studied other countries that practiced slavery, and they freed their slaves and all that type of stuff. They even came to America to study how America had Jim Crow, all that stuff. And they studied other white dominant countries and how they dealt with their indigenous, how they dealt with their African enslaved, and they perfected racism. Where you have the apartheid and where you still have people mentally in that space, even though they're 30 years up to 50 years removed from that. Like, the apartheid ended, I think, in the 90s. Millennials born in the 80s and the 90s. Like, at the end of the day, Tyla could have simply just said, I am mixed, I am half Black, or I am part Black, I am of African descent, but I am a majority of Indian. And personally for me, like, because of my theories about Pangea, I would say that Indian people are like African. They're just Africans with straight hair, I guess you would say, even though texture is not necessarily the same as like a racial group of people. But, you know, like, I would even be okay with calling her Black and being like, oh, you are of African descent, if Indian people really claim their African origin or whatever. But the one thing she did not do was explain or clarify anything. And I just think because of that, Black Americans don't mess with people who want to tiptoe over being Black, but they want to benefit not only on our dollar, but they want to benefit from our culture, because Black American culture is the top 3, or I would even say the #1 culture that everybody over the world just wants. So that's why she will never reach Rihanna heights, is because she never wanted to be Black. I'm sure over in South Africa, she does get a lot of benefits from not being black. Which, let's be real, here in America, a lot of biracial, a lot of mixed black people, like, they benefit from being ambiguous. They benefit from being like light skinned. Like, it's a whole story over here as well. But it's just like people who have the mindset, like the Pan-African mindset, where it's just like, we're all black, no matter what language you speak, no matter what country you're from, we are all black. So if you are not under any circumstances going to claim that, yes, we are all cousins, you're my brother, you're my sister. If you are not going to have that mentality when you come into this country, you best believe black people are going to be like, okay, you not one of us, so you better be talented as I don't know what. Your music better be popping in order for us to support you. And if it's not popping, if you're not talented, if your vocals doesn't speak for itself, if your songwriting doesn't speak for itself, if your acting doesn't speak for itself, if whatever you do in the entertainment industry doesn't speak for itself, regardless of your race, we are not under any circumstances going to fuck with you. So, yeah.
While we're on that topic, Black Americans have no right to tell South Africans that Tyla must identify as black. As we've seen in the past week, the colored community can be very anti-black and racist. So how are you going to force people who don't share the same lived experience as us? In apartheid, they were seen as above black people and therefore had a little bit more privileges than us. We've seen the horrible things that some of them had to say about us just because a few black men on a podcast said something about their community. All of a sudden, it was directed towards all black South African women. So you cannot come here and erase my identity as a black South African woman and tell me that I need to be grouping people who are of mixed heritage and don't even share the same culture and lived experience as a black person. No. A woman who looks mixed and me are not going to have the same experience, babe, in South Africa and outside. So you cannot come and tell me that she needs to be the image for black South African women globally when we have actual black South African women who are standing tall on the international stage within their own right, like Nomza Mumbata, Tusombedu, among many others. This is particularly why the Black American community literally has zero representation for black women on their international media. That very same media, they don't have proper representation for black women, and it's wrong. Because there's no reason why people are fighting for Zendaya to play Princess Tiana. Come on, guys.
Yes, it makes sense for the country where she is from, not in the country where she's being marketed to. And I feel like a better conversation, a more honest argument around this would be to consider, why is it that black Americans would be like, wait, pause with colored? Like, what do you mean by that? Right? Because black Americans have to constantly call out, interrupt white people, even from using the N-word as it's been reclaimed, from singing it in songs, from saying it to each other, from using black scent, to taking over black culture, from profiting from black culture that happens on this app all the time. So a better faith argument would have been, are black Americans upset about Tyla's use of the word colored because how white Americans constantly find ways to actually disparage black people, and could use Tyla as a reason to say, oh, I thought that colored was something that people say now. I thought y'all call yourselves that now. That's an actual honest conversation, right? Like, I see how white people move in the U.S. considering everything that we're seeing. We have a blatantly racist president who people are not reading anymore. It wouldn't take long for white Americans to be like, oh, color. I have had people in my classrooms in the 2020s say colored. So Why isn't that considered? Why isn't the racial trauma of that word a consideration, considering Tyla was in the U.S.? Black Americans didn't go to South Africa and say, Tyla, why are you calling yourself colored? They were saying, hey, why are you calling yourself that in the U.S.? Why is that a way that you identify? How does blackness show up for you? How does that live for you? And on one of the, unfortunately, most popular radio shows, to Black Americans, she did not answer that question. I think that is what truly impacted her ability to tap into a Black American market. It's as simple as that.
Mr. Media, why? That's a good question, because why are you guys not leaving Tyla alone? Americans, you guys come to the front. This one's just for you. We need to all come together to combat American exceptionalism, because the way that some of you think is that America's the middle of the world and we're all just revolving around you guys. How are you upset that somebody doesn't want to claim a culture that they're genuinely not a part of? So if you're out the loop, Tyla dropped an EP last week and it didn't do that well according to the internet. And the reason why it didn't do well is because she was disrespectful towards Black Americans. The disrespect being that she's telling people where she's actually from and not pretending to be from somewhere that she's not. Tyla released a statement last year saying that she's never denied my blackness. I don't know where that came from. In South Africa, I would be classified as a coloured woman, and other places I would be classified as a Black woman. I am well aware that in America and also here in the UK, the term coloured is derogatory. It's not a positive word. But in South Africa, I can understand that they have a completely different history to me and to you, and they don't see that word as being derogatory. These are the same people that will get onto her if she was to say that she's Black American and then say that she's trying to appropriate their culture and profit off the black dollar. There are 195 countries on this planet and they all identify in different ways. You have to understand that. So let's all give the girl grace, and let's be honest. The reason why you don't like her is probably because of something else, not because she's disrespecting your culture.
I'm not finished talking about this Tyler discourse, but why are Americans so upset about the term coloured being a slur, but every single song talks about niggers? And Big Latto's name comes from the term mulatto, and you be calling each other coons. So is it just because she's not American? I feel like if she was American and she called herself coloured, ironically, Americans would actually love her calling herself coloured. Like, calling yourself light skinned, oh, got that Asian, got that Japanese, that wavy Brazilian bitch. Like, you guys would have loved it. But just because she's African and she's coloured.
Tyler doesn't need your permission to thrive, and that's what's pissing you off, ne? A dog doesn't bark at a stationary car. If Tyler's album was flopping, you wouldn't be making so much noise. She'd be an afterthought. The mere fact that you people decided to look up the numbers immediately she released an EP with a couple of songs speaks volumes. She makes you uncomfortable, innit? Why does she make you uncomfortable? I think you have to ask yourselves that. And I'm talking to African.
So you want me to talk about Tyla? All right, well, I just want to be clear. I didn't really react when her record sales came out because, to be quite honest, nobody buys records anymore when people go on streaming more than anything. So I think that it's a better indicator of if her comments about being colored would be her streaming. That would be, like, the record sales. I don't think somebody who listens to Tyla cares about records. They care about singles, right? So it never really gave anything huge. But the thing is that, like, what I think is more of the issue with Tyla is that Black people, especially Black Americans, love to include people who are racially ambiguous or mixed with something as just Black, so that they can widen the perception of what Black is, right? And you'll notice this, like, in the 90s a lot, like in certain movies where, like, the leading Black actress is always someone racially ambiguous, or she's not fully Black, or whatever, she's not a monoracial Black woman. And this is Black men's preferences, and this is the Black community's beauty standards. So Tyla, to me, is just an example of the beauty standards actually just slapping out in the face, which is she doesn't even consider herself to be Black. She considers herself to be colored. And there's a completely different racial caste system in South Africa, and she's South African. Why would she start speaking like she's not South African if she's South African? If anything, it just points to how frivolous and how not stable these standards of race are to certain people. You know what I mean? And also, it points at a reality that I feel like if you go to Latin America or you go to South Africa or other colonized places, they have an understanding that someone who is deeply melanated and monoracial does not have the same experience as someone who is of lighter hue and more racially ambiguous. So that, to me, is a more, like, I don't like the notion of categorizing of race either, but at least with that categorization, people are acknowledging that, yes, because my father is half Indian or Indian, that means that I have been allotted certain privileges or I'm just putting a completely different racial cast. And racial cast is about the abilities and how that person moves through the system. So it's a racial hierarchy. That's why they give people certain. So yeah, I don't even think it's that big of a deal. If you want to have a conversation about the derogatory nature of using color, even though that's a conversation for South Africans, I don't think that that's necessarily a conversation for African Americans to have, because it's a semantics conversation about words and history. So if South Africans, for back in the day, certain black people were totally fine with being called Negro. Negro was what it was, you know what I mean? But then we were like, we're African Americans, so it's like we're trying to take away the racial violence to the name. But I guess in South Africa they don't care to have that conversation yet, and it is what it is. She's not, also, to even expect this girl to be like extremely pro-black or be political in nature when she literally makes, like, I don't know, skinny biracial music. And that's what I'm gonna call it, skinny biracial music. It's just she's a pop girl who's there for entertainment. She's actually, like, her whole image is just to be lauded on as a cute, beautiful, skinny black thing, that is the antithetical to a fat black woman. That's all she is, in essence. So and she's talented the most, which means she can dance and she can somewhat hold a tune. So I've never been interested in her. I like that song. I like when she took that water bottle like everyone and put it on her back and she went, make me sweat, and like that was cute, but also it was giving very early 2000s. Like she could have been in a movie with Omarion and well, we won't name the other one, but you know what I mean. You Got Served. It was giving You Got Served vibes. So it's not really that entertaining to me at all.
African Americans being upset that Tyla would be referred to as colored.
Y'all, please, I beg of y'all, and I don't want any diaspora words in the comments, but Tyla being colored is a powerful and very specific lineage coming from South Africa. I'm saying this as a Jamaica sun sign, South Africa moon, Nigeria rising. But in all seriousness, the colored people have a very strong and specific history. They're the descendants of enslaved Bantu Africans, enslaved Khoisan, enslaved people from Malaysia brought to the Cape Colony in South Africa. That's basically the ethnic group of people who were enslaved in the South African context. And we have to put respect on their name. They're multi-generationally mixed race. They speak Afrikaans, right? They're from very specific communities throughout the country.
Why do African Americans hate the term colored? Let's talk about it. The answer is always America's complex relationship with Black history, but let's start from the beginning anyways. Of course, colored is an adjective of the form color. But what is a person of color within the United States? In the early 1900s, state law actually used to define what a person of color was. So in Alabama, a person of color would have been a person with any Negro blood in their ancestry for the last 5 generations. In Arkansas, it was anyone who had any visible or distinct admixtures of African blood. And that's why you have concepts like passing in the brown paper bag rule, because historically you wouldn't always be considered Black depending on how you phenotypically presented. The American understanding of race evolved from the need to separate African enslaved people from white settlers. That very distinct separation was needed because Black people weren't considered to be human beings while other groups were. So historically, other groups in the United States have been discriminated against, but they were still considered to be human. Black people have not been afforded that privilege. After slavery was abolished, Jim Crow took its place, legalizing anti-Black segregation. But it's important to address why white people at the time thought it was necessary to have Jim Crow in the first place. According to the Jim Crow Museum, at the time, a lot of Christians were taught that Black people were inherently cursed and that God supported racial segregation. Black people were considered to be the mongrel race, and many white people were taught that Black people were inferior when it comes to intelligence, morality, and civilized behavior. Advocacy groups have historically tried to reclaim the term colored, which is why you have some names like the NAACP, which is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. But in the national lexicon, the term has not evolved. Calling a Black person colored is still considered a slur, I'd say on the level of calling someone the N-word. The difference between the N-word and colored is that there has been an alternate form of the N-word created that has been reclaimed and is considered a term of endearment when said between Black people. The hard ER ending is still a slur, and honestly will probably even get you a side-eye in Black spaces, while the soft A ending, not so much. And this battle is something the United States is still grappling with to this day. Just look at our current political climate. So what happens when someone from another nationality, another culture, another ethnic background identifies themselves as colored? The notion that African Americans are not civilized, and we're talking about specifically ethnically African American individuals, that is baked into the American cultural experience. That concept, which is derived from Jim Crow and slavery, is used to justify the fact that African Americans in the United States deserve the conditions that African Americans are so often in, which is a result of systematized and legislated decisions intended to keep African Americans out of opportunity and in poverty. I hope I'm saying this the right way because I just get so heated. And because the United States is a huge exporter of pop culture, that same narrative about African Americans that is perpetuated is exported to the rest of the world. One comment I've heard continuously about Tyla is that she has claimed the label of being uppity. Considering the experiences of African Americans in the United States, when you're approaching a new artist, why would you want to engage with someone who thinks they're better than you? Just because of the country that you were born in, just because your ancestors were kidnapped from their homeland, just because you've had to deal with like psychological, emotional, legislative warfare just because of the color of your skin. So yeah, my interpretation of the whole Tyla discourse is it seems like a reaction to xenophobia against African Americans.
I think the Tyla situation is being blown out of proportion. Black Americans did not want to see Tyla fail. We simply did not support her. What is the issue? What is the problem? We didn't set her up to fail. We didn't orchestrate anything against her to make her fail. We simply stopped supporting her. I think that's the real issue. People don't like when black people find something to stand for. They hate the idea that we will pull support if we feel like that idea doesn't align with what we're trying to do, right? Because in reality, it does not make sense for black people to put support behind someone who does not consider themselves black. Like, okay, you can be great. You could be a great singer, you could be a great dancer, but we're not going to rally behind that. What we're looking to rally behind is someone who is a symbol for the black community. If you don't want to be that symbol, that's fine. Don't expect our support. And that's what they don't like. They want us to consume without question, right? They want to be able to sell us music, sell us acts, sell us ideology that does not benefit us. That doesn't work anymore because that means that we're not profitable to them anymore, right? They only want the black dollar. They don't want to support the black cause. When we don't allow them to have the black dollar without supporting the black cause, then they're mad. That's where the anger comes from. Because they recognize our spending power. They recognize our influence on white America, right? They see all of this stuff. They don't want to associate with us. That's fine. You can do that. But what you shouldn't do is expect the black dollar to follow. We have a right to put our money and support behind things that support us as a community. I mean, black people finally realize how influential our culture is. And now we know that we are in a position to decide who rises to the top and gets to represent us. And so now we're real picky about who we let up there. But that's all right, though. Like, hip hop is a black space, right? So obviously, you need the black approval to be considered part of it. I don't know why y'all think that y'all can bypass that. Something about that, y'all need to really think about that because something about that is really entitled. We don't owe you anything of our culture. If you can be great in South Africa. She's going to be great in South Africa. But South African sales don't count towards Billboard. Not in America. You know, it's not many people outside of our community that we support in general, like music-wise. Literally. So I don't know why y'all thought that would fly. You can't come over here marketing to black people and say you don't want to be associated with them. Come on, be serious. I mean, y'all just got to start being realistic. I think it's that y'all think we're dumb and stupid and y'all feel entitled to black culture and black labor, which is why we even be having these conversations.
I would like to reach a point where we allow Tyla to speak for herself. A big part of why I think Tyla's EP has been flopping is because of the animosity towards her, and the animosity has been caused by her South African fans. Not all, I'm a South African fan and I'm not toxic, but many of them are and have been completely hateful towards Black Americans. And also another reason is the whole colored issue and the way that she addressed it at first. But in Tyla's defense, and I think we're not listening to her, she did address it. After the Breakfast Club issue, she addressed it in a tweet very clearly. And then during her British Vogue cover interview, whatever, for British Vogue a few months later, she clarified. And she said that in the South African context, she is colored. That is how she's racialized. And that is a fact. And nothing's going to change that. Colored people have their own, culture, their own specific way that they've been racialized. And that goes for hundreds of years. So that's very specific to South Africa, to Zimbabwe, to Namibia. However, on the worldwide stage, for the rest of the world, she is Black, and she acknowledged that she is a Black woman. She said that twice. She said that in her tweet very clearly, and she said that in an interview with British Vogue. And so when today you will have, because there's obviously a lot of anti-Blackness amongst colored people in South Africa, who will say, oh, okay, well, she's not Black. She is Black. She said so. She said so because she's understanding the fact that internationally, that's not a thing, right? If you're mixed, you have some white blood, you have some Black blood, you have some Indian blood, you're just Black, right? And that means something. And she understands that. And that is why she said, well, people will see me as a Black woman. People will see me as a Black person. When she comes to Korea, I watched her in Korea last year. Amazing. They view her as Black. They look at her, they see her face, they have their own eyes, they see her, and they racialize her as a Black person, whether you like that or not. South Africa is not the world. And can we listen to Tyla and not listen to her fans who are toxic, who have their own internalized issues? Because it's really affecting her. And her quality of music and her quality of performance is at such a high level that she shouldn't be experiencing these type of sales.